Welcome to episode 3 of Real-Time Design. For the next 30 minutes, you're gonna watch me designing basically live in Photoshop. This is completely unedited, uncut footage. The purpose of this series is to give you insight into what my design process looks like, and you'll see it's a lot of experimentation. Not all ideas work out, and that's okay. Today's subject is Khalif El-Salam of the Seattle Cascades. Let's get into it. Let's get started. I can give you a quick peek at the assets I've put together ahead of time. Just different cutouts, different photos of the same cutouts. Then I also have this Cascade Mountain image that I might use. And Khalif El-Salam's nickname, one of his nicknames, is Leaf. So potentially could work in a leaf texture or a leaf into this design. But I want to start by just bringing in some cutouts. I really like this jumping cutout. I feel like this is just like a very solid, clean start to the design. I'm going to try to lay out the composition first before getting into the player treatment. So I want to set this up. I mean, I feel like I like this layout right off the bat. If we have one cutout looking one way, the other jumping the other way, maybe we could put a third one just below everything. We do have this laying out image as well. Probably want to make this one smaller, but yeah, I mean, maybe we could do the big, medium, small format here. So just to get a better sense of the sizing, I'm gonna match these head sizes real quick and then use the golden ratio of 1.6 to decrease the size, divide by 1.6. So now we have the smallest cutout 1.6 times smaller than the medium cutout, and then we can do the same thing with sizing the big cutout. Matching the head sizes, and again, transforming it times 1.6 to make everything feel like the right amount of hierarchy. And it's not a hard and fast rule. You've probably seen me do that in some other designs, but just something to get started. The laying out cutout to me does feel small, so I do want to bring that up a good amount. And I'm wondering if it's too much, if it's not balanced because we have too much motion going to the left and not enough going to the right. But maybe we just bring this all down. And just so we have a better feel of how this looks, I do want to fade out this back cutout. I feel like I'm not liking it's too much motion to this side of the image. So I do want to just play with these two cutouts, I think, unless we do have some other ones. Honestly, this one could be a better fit than the one I currently have in the back. It's less direct of a point out to the right, so that kind of helps fill some of that vertical space a little bit better. This photo was taken with a very extreme vignetting on the bottom part, so I would mask out his arm and lower body. But I guess let's see how that looks. We can kind of use this cutout to naturally cut off. Yeah, maybe we cut him off right there. So just taking a black brush, putting a mask on, and we'll dump that arm as well. It's this is a pretty clean start, I feel like. And I mean, I don't know, we could just run with this. It is very symmetrical. You have this arm going out to the right, this arm going out to the left. I do like that. Let's get a better feel of how this whole thing looks together just by changing the colors. So a hue and saturation layer, let's go to the blues. And this is our left cutout. So I want to make it more saturated so it can keep up with the one on the right. And yeah, getting some similar blue tones. And we can change this more in camera raw filter, but I just wanted to get a better sense. And then skin tones, also I think more saturated, but more red as well. So something like this. Also, forgive me, the time of day that I'm recording this, I might get blasted with some light from my blinds in my room. Also, let's save this Khalif, just so we don't forget to do that later. I'm still wondering if I want like some cutout down at the bottom, but honestly, we might just run with these two. And I could do even something behind the current cutout that we have in the back. Or maybe we get something interesting going in the foreground. Like this is it's such an interesting photo to try to use because this is all that was of the photo. Like it cut him off at around the chest. So it's interesting. Like anytime you can find an interesting photo, it is gonna do different stuff for your designs that you might not have come up with before. Still just trying to, I mean, yeah, like that could maybe work. I just wish there was more of his body showing in this image. Like it's going to be tough to work with. You kind of have to position it in a way that makes it cut off. Although we could use some text to cut it off. Maybe we could try this. Let's make some text. Let's write out Khalif, I guess. Maybe we do leaf, but let's start with Khalif, and we'll pick just a good bold font. Start with Termina black. And I just want to make this spacing a little closer together. So it's just like this thick, bold font in the middle. And using this, you can kind of naturally cut off images, or at least like fade it out in a way that doesn't look weird or abrupt. So something like that. Just want to get a feel of how this could look. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know about this. I'm kind of thinking we just go with these two cutouts, but part of me is just wondering if that's too plain of a start. I think it's good. I like the symmetry. Let's just go with this. I'm gonna get started on some player retouching. This will be like the foundation of this design. Let's get into camera raw filter, start fine tuning these cutouts. I'm gonna try not to take too long on this part. I'm kind of wondering if I should just do the retouching ahead of time, like I do the player cutouts ahead of time in these videos. But for now, we will retouch them in the video. You can watch my process over and over again. Just copying and pasting these smart filters over to the back cutout as well. And it's looking like still too saturated on the back one, so let's see if we can meet it halfway. And just bring down the blues a little bit, just the saturation. Skin tones, I think we maybe want to play with the yellows here. Make them more red, and then we can look at the reds. Yeah, I'm just trying to match these as close as possible. So something like that looks about right. We can get some basic lighting going to get our curves layer and invert the mask with Command I. And let's just kind of do a rough brightening of some spots that seem to want brightness. Basically looking at what was already bright in the original photo, like the highlights, and just trying to bring some more contrast and emphasis to those areas. And right now I'm using a fully 100% flow brush. Oh, we should fix these cleats. They're way too yellow. But we can also lower this flow. It's getting a little too harsh, especially when you're doing detail on like the shorts and stuff and the jersey wrinkles. You don't want it too extreme, but I was kind of moving around more freely with the edges and can taper stuff out as well. So yeah, this is kind of a rough highlight job, and then we can do duplicating this curves layer, bringing down this curve, and we can do the shadows. So again, I'm going to start with a thicker flow, just get the dark parts, the really dark parts, more accentuated, and then we can go back over and see what the rest looks like. Make sure we always get the bottom of the shoes too, because that's the part that, in theory, if we're getting light coming from above, we'll get some foot shadows, and then we want the darkest parts on the shoes. And you can drop this down and get some of the finer jersey details like we did before. And something like this should be a good starting point. Now let's do same process with the bigger cutout. Let's just copy these curves layers over and again clip them to that layer. Delete the layer mask. Let's make new black masks on these. Let's start with the highlights, crank the flow up, and just brighten up the brighter parts. Yeah, brighter jersey definitely helps on this one. We'll take our dark curves and lower flow for the face details too. I do want to brighten the eyes on this cutout too. I think I missed those. So let's go back to our brighter curves layer and just quickly paint on. I mean, they're pretty dark to begin with, but every little bit of emphasis helps. Back to the dark tones, the shadows, and that's feeling pretty good. All right. So that's kind of the basic player retouching. Let's adjust these colors. Like I mentioned, I want to get rid of the yellow in these shoes. I don't know if they're supposed to be yellow. I feel like they're supposed to be white, and it's just the lighting. Same with the disc, too. Honestly, we could just desaturate. Well, he has some blue. So let's go to the yellows, drop the saturation down, and honestly it affected the skin tones a little bit. So let's put a mask on and just make it affect the shoes and the disc up here. Back cutout, I'm fine with those colors. I guess there is some discoloration here in the jersey too. Just want the parts that are actually supposed to be white. Like I want that in grayscale basically. So the only colors we have popping off are skin tones, jersey color, and that's the way we keep everything as clean as possible. I'm gonna name this folder Players, and then we gotta decide kind of how to build the rest of this composition, but I do like this start. I think we should do foot shadows on this, although I could also see just kind of doing like some kind of arrangement of text or maybe a logo in the background. I do have this Cascade Mountains image, which I think could be a fun background addition. Probably not going to go full color with this one. I think let's drop a gradient map over it, and we can just do like a Cascades blue from the jersey color. One of these, yeah, like a nice light blue. Seems good. And I'm also going to drop a mask on the mountain background and put a gradient on it. So got a nice subtle mountain texture. And let's go ahead and add some foot shadows to our foreground cutout. Just going to make some soft black brush strokes here with a very flat brush. Drop the flow down. Something like 14% is good. And let's click once there. Let's get a little bit finer detail for where the shoes are hitting. Maybe we do 2 clicks there, and then, well, let's lower the flow. Let's go to like 5%. We'll do 2 clicks, and then this foot should be a little bit in front and a little bit more faded. So we'll just click once for that guy. And then maybe we do like one more softer shadow. No, I feel like that works for me. I'm good with that. I think maybe just because he's coming a little bit forward, like that arm is coming forward, we could do a little bit just in front. So that's kind of giving him a floor for some perspective. Can group this, call it small cutout. And let's bring these down just a bit. I'm trying to think. I think text-wise, we could do like a big 99 behind the players. So if we type out 99, let's find a good font for it. I feel like something similar to that Jersey font. Oh, which I do have. I think the Cascades, yeah, they do have Cascades player number as its own font. So might as well use it. We have it. I think 99 could be good right here. I do kind of want it taller though. Maybe I could do, this Dharma Gothic. Maybe Dharma Gothic is the move. It's kind of my go-to, like, very tall, skinny font. And I just want to make sure we can read the number. So maybe we need a less aggressive one. We could try Babus. Babus is okay. Tighten it up a bit. Yeah, I think this is good compositionally. We'll change the color. Let's go with, should we try odd droppering the background? What was the darkest blue here? Let's take that. Yeah, I think I like that idea. I like multiply, just getting some of the mountain texture showing through this number. I think I like it at least. The other thing we could try is putting a stroke on the number. So if we just go down to our effects, stroke in, let's use that same blue. Drop the fill all the way down. This is like a more subtle looking design as far as the background goes. I feel like full color is okay. I do want to get some lighting though on the number. So let's group this number into its own folder. And I'm just going to drop a curves layer on top of it. We'll clip it and boost the brightness. And now Command I, invert it. And let's get our normal brush back to 100 flow. Is this shadow like a little bit slanted? I think it is. I feel like I wasn't totally horizontal with the brush I chose. Where's that shadow? Oh wait, small cutout. This is the shadow. Okay, let's just, I can pull up my grid so we can see how even or uneven it is. Okay, I think that's better. Sorry, that was bothering me. Let's get back to our player number. So we're just gonna brush on some brightness here. White brush on a black mask. This way we've got like just an idea of a light source coming from the top of the image, or at least just the general background. We can kind of play with it a bit. Like there's some light hitting this cutout on his face, like the sun is coming from that way. This one, it's more of like direct sunlight from above. So there's probably like a good compromise where we just have general lighting coming from the top of the design, but maybe kind of broadly going on the edges too. Yeah, I feel like that works. Could drop this like spotlight of brightness behind them too. I feel like I like that. I want to shrink it down some more. I feel like when I just start running out of space, if you shrink everything down, it can help clean things up, just gives more white space to the whole design. So that's feeling just a little less cluttered. You can also move his shadow down to make it look like he's jumping higher. So again, small cutout. I'm just gonna call this shadow so I don't keep losing it. This was the initial image. He is jumping off really high off the ground, so this does not feel like a stretch. And now this is kind of good because this back cutout is almost in line with the curve of the 9. So it's as if he's getting masked by that as well as the smaller cutout. So I'm liking this overall feel. Maybe we need to shrink it down a little more. But this feels like a pretty clean looking start to a graphic. I've got 9 minutes left on my dashboard here for my 30 minutes. Some text at the top or at the bottom would always look good. Just something simple with his name written out. We could try to get a little bit more interesting with the background too. I'm trying to think. I mean, this leaf idea, maybe we just drop this leaf texture and that's enough of a call out to his nickname. I mean, I could put it just on the 9, or the 99. If I clip that, change the blend mode, luminosity, let's just drop it all the way down to C. I mean, yeah, like we could do something subtle with that, but because we're getting the mountain texture showing through already, unless we didn't do that, I guess I could go either way. Although I feel like the leaf should be vertical. Let's actually, instead of luminosity, let's change it back to normal and just bring a black and white adjustment layer on top of it. That way we can play with the other blend modes like overlay, soft light, and it's keeping the same color scheme. Luminosity is just kind of my like quick way to set something to take on the color of whatever it's on. But this black and white approach can do the same thing. I think I do like the mountain texture showing through. So maybe we take this leaf texture and we blow it up so it covers the whole screen and just have it going over everything. Maybe multiply. I don't want it like too extreme. I want like just a subtle nod. But maybe it's tough because the texture itself, like I wish it was a more zoomed out photo of a leaf because these veiny patterns are just, it's too like macro looking. It's just too big scale. So I'm leaning towards just not doing it. Unless there's a good blend mode we can find. But it would probably be either in the overlay section or the multiply section. I mean, pin light is interesting on the number at least because it gives it like a finer looking detail. Maybe we just do that then. Just clip it to the number. Yeah, I think that's fine. I don't know. I could go either way. That's like such a minor, subtle detail. I do feel like the background and the number is giving off a brighter vibe than our players currently. So maybe I need to take the player cutouts. I can either boost the shadows on them. Yeah, let's do that. Let's boost the shadows on them, go back into camera raw filter. You could also just like play with curves layers and exposure settings and stuff. There's some other color going on in his hair. Might look okay. Let's see. Boosting the shadows up to 72. I think that's fine. Let's do the same thing with smaller cutout. Just getting some more brightness into the image. Yeah, I mean, we could go even a little more. Dropping a curves layer on top of the players folder and just brightening everything. Although there is some like, we're getting some like pink tones in the hair. You know what? Never mind. It's not it's not really worth bringing out these other colors. I could desaturate just that space. I think so I was just undoing the camera raw filter. I think if we just did a curves adjustment to the players, made sure we keep those hair tones a little darker, we could be good. Maybe just something like this. Yeah, I mean, I could tweak lighting and colors forever, but I've got 30 minutes. Time is running out, so I'm just gonna make let's make a text layer. Khalif El Salam. Maybe we could do like a fun lowercase font. Cool Vetica. I guess I typed that out in caps lock. Khalif El Salam. Go back to 0 spacing. Maybe something like this in the corner. I'm trying to think like what little text details we can add. But yeah, maybe we go this route. Name in the corner. I feel like we can go even smaller. Or maybe we do go caps. Let's go caps. I think that's better. Just pulling up my grids. I'm going to keep this one box margin. Seattle Cascades, just duplicating that same layer, same font. Oops, don't want to move the mountains. And we could probably, yeah, I don't know if we need text at the bottom. Maybe we just grab like Cascades logo. As soon as my libraries will load, go in and grab that. I've got a few logos for them. I think we'll do, they have like this written out wordmark logo. That should look good. So let's try this. Although the gray, the Seattle gray really is not ideal. I guess maybe we go logo in the middle. It's writing out Seattle Cascades. Or, you know what? I think we have to keep the theme with this text. Let's take Seattle Cascades, move it to the middle, and then duplicate another layer. We'll type out number 99. These are kind of like my go-to placeholder text ideas for just for like poster design text. And I want to change the margins, so we're doing a 2-box margin from the top and sides. So let's do that. And it's, you know, it doesn't feel totally complete to me. Maybe it's because we haven't done any finishing effects. I think we could also do similar lighting effects to these text elements at the top. If we just grab the same curves layer that we did for the number and just started kind of brushing sort of randomly just to create like some gradient feel up here. That's sort of making it more interesting to me. I do think that the bottom of this design is a little dull. I want some more blue color, honestly. But we're running out of time, so let's just go ahead, apply the whole image to its own layer, camera raw filter. Let's bring out some contrast, lower the exposure. I think we can lower the highlights, play with the shadows a bit. And we'll add some texture and clarity. Yeah, I don't know if I'm set on this as like final design, but this does feel like a pretty strong start to a design. And I do think I could come up with something to make the bottom more interesting. But we're gonna leave things here. That's gonna do it for today's 30-minute sports poster design challenge. This is what we came up with in 30 minutes, but it still wasn't sitting right with me as a totally finished design, so I took another 10 to 15 minutes or so and just played around some more, ended up with this as the final result of this poster. You'll see I added some stroked text of the 99 and put it on either side of the design. I also shrunk the font size at the top. Most importantly, I added kind of a blue hue to the whole thing by adding a selective color layer and switching the whites to have more blue in them. You'll see at the bottom of the design, finally figured out how to fill that space with this blue rectangle. Took some of that mountain texture as well to apply it down there. Overall, pretty happy with how this turned out. Hope you learned something along the way. As always, let me know if you have any questions.